Are we live? You are live.
My life.
I never know. Karen, how are you?
How am I? Better this week. Things are there's some light. There's some things that are happening that you know, just learning that letting time settle things, it works. It always works out to whatever it's going to be. So I feel like this week it's just seeing that time and care matter, and the end, what you have is what you're going to be in anyways. Like, why can't I learn that? I'm always an anticipator and a worrier, so this reminding myself this week that things will happen, they unfold, and it shows up, and this is what it is. So a better week. How about you?
It's a nice reminder that things are working out. Always have, always will. And in time, you don't always see what the reason is for the unfolding of what unfolded, if that makes any sense. Um, which leads great into what I'll be talking about today. But as far as a check-in goes, I'm all right. The events of the last couple of weeks have been on me, um, so it's almost impossible to distinguish my check-in from what is happening around me. So I guess I'm checked in, and I'll dive right into. So let's hold on. Let's share the topic of today first, and then I will dive into what I'm going through. The value of alternate perspective, which is I always think is great in coaching anyways, is seeing a different view of the same situation. So when you asked me about topics, this is why I was thinking about this. So we have vacations planned. Sorry, I have a vacation plan, and we were going to go to Cuba in another 2 weeks. And with everything that was going on, all the turmoil and we're heavily impacted by what the U.S. does, or at least our media is. So it's kind of hard not to see that kind of stuff. So with Cuba going through what they're going through because of Venezuela and all the Trump shutdown and all this stuff, like shutting down oil and that kind of thing, we had to make a pivot and go decide to take a different vacation. So where did we reserve? Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So last week, I get what a few days ago, with all the buses on fire and the cartel like kind of lashing out after what's going on. I, it's stressful to say the least.
Hmm.
From this side, um, because you're seeing all this stuff going on, and it's oftentimes this stuff is almost like a layer removed from you, so you don't really feel it as being like, okay, yes, it's not good or it's not cool, but it's there. But now there is part of what is happening inside of me because we have plans to go there. And trying to juggle in my head all of the things that are not in my control, but that I think are in my control. Like, we didn't pay for the vacation. It's somebody else's money. Okay, so do we need to do what they want to do, or do I need to stand up and say, okay, it's not cool that we're going because it's not safe. We've got kids. I know my wife wants a vacation pretty bad. So trying to just balance off that stuff and make a decision that makes sense for all of us um, weighs on me. Um, but I find oftentimes we get kind of we have blinders on and we only see the situation from one perspective. And I don't have all the information. So it's not easy to make a decision without all the information. So I thought this in general, just like the whole focusing on a topic from that one lens or that one way, we see it a lot in coaching because people come to us with a problem and all they see is the problem. They can't see their way out of the problem because they're so immersed in it. So I thought it might be interesting for us to have a conversation about the decisions that we need to make around that, and how we use coaching to help people like move out of that myopic kind of blinders on look at their situation. I'm going to take this off the screen here. Off. So, what do you think about what's going on right now? And like, if you had a question for me to help me kind of like get out of the place that I'm in, what would you ask?
Well, I would want to know a little more about what you're worried about and what's it on behalf of.
Well, first and foremost, I want to make sure that my family's safe. But I also know that people want to go on vacation. So, like, our in-laws have gifted us a vacation, which is amazing. And I know the kids are excited and Julie wants to go, but I'm trying to figure out in my mind, is it worth it to go? Like, is it going to be more stressful to go there, get through the airport and try to like avoid the town to be on site, or am I overblowing it? So safety, someone else's money. It's always someone else's money. And trying to balance off people who really want to break. Did I answer the question?
Did you answer your question? When you hear yourself with the 3 fingers up, I noticed that you actually numbered off what was, on your mind.
Yeah.
So, the question is, what's in, like you just said something earlier about what's in our control.
Right.
I'm curious about what these 3 things that are important to you, like what's your thoughts on how do I find some ways to feel like I've got the answers to those 3 questions that I have?
I think part of it's just time because it's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing how things play out and seeing if things settle down. I watched a bunch of videos of Canadians who were sitting in their apartment watching buses on fire and things like that. They didn't seem to be too distraught by it or off put. Like they were like, yeah, this isn't the ideal situation, but we've got food. We're okay. Nobody's threatening people. It seems to be more like a backlash of and showing that they're causing mischief, but they're not like it's not like they're threatening human life. At least that's what it seemed like. So I mean, there's a little bit of comfort in the fact that people who are there seem to be managing okay.
Right.
But do I want to manage a vacation?
So what else could you do to, as you wait it out, I heard that word, wait it out, to be informed? That's what I'm hearing you say. I want to be informed. And I have to decide, am I ready to go down knowing this has happened, because it's truly happened? And am I comfortable going down, knowing that's there, that's been there for me in my nice holiday space? And am I ready to go in and you said the word manage it?
Yeah. I've always found that information is helps alleviate a lot of problems, because it's our mind that often jumps forward into the worry of what's possible versus what's really going on. So it's the imagination versus facts. I struggle a little bit with trying to figure out what the facts are, because there's a lot of, I don't know if it's embellishment or, I mean, there are AI images out there of people creating videos. So, I mean, trying to find reputable sources to get my information as opposed to just taking whatever comes through the feed. and trying to dissect what is real and what is not. I also know that media tends to generally amplify what is wrong and not focus on the whole story, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm a little bit focused on the turmoil side of things as opposed to what's, I mean, the full picture, I guess.
Yeah. It's, you're in another country, you're counting on information through media. I'm hearing you say that it's hard to dissect and find out what's real and not real for you, and the second question is, like, for me, is I'm curious about decision making for you. How does that look in your world?
Well, there's multiple layers of that decision making. I'm not the only parent. And it might be decided on my behalf also, like it's not worth it from those who have paid for it, right? They may decide that we're not going.
Right.
But I think rushing to that end point doesn't help anybody. So being okay with not knowing for the next week and a bit or week and a half or whatever before we have to make a decision. I mean, we can make a decision at the last minute not to go, right? It doesn't have, I think that's part of it, is always thinking like you need to make the decision now when the time actually hasn't come. Which,
yeah, how many of us are guilty of that one?
Like what, the self-imposed timeline as to when things have to happen?
Well, you just know it's unsettled, and you're here, and you've got like 3 more weeks, and and then but you're right there thinking, oh my God, I got to make a decision today. And then when you kind of settle down, you go, wait a minute, I actually don't have to make this decision right now. And this is what I can do. And so why am I all wrapped up? Why don't I let this just go and pick a date that I'm going to need to, obviously pick this back up and make the final choice making, rather than having it consume me. So guilty of that. I mean, I lose sleep over stuff. I was worrying about ribs last week that are going to be served 2 weeks from now. Like I had 2 nights where I just thought about the ribs all night. It's like, oh my God, you were so bad. This is why you can't do this kind of volunteer work. It consumes you. It's silly. And I got over it, but I couldn't prevent. And that's what I would say is pretty interesting for us, is to notice our pattern. And people always go back to this in coaching. There's a part of us that the anticipators, maybe the people get a little anxious, our way of being, of how we look at things. So it just to notice that's our habit. And so, to slow it down and say, is this necessary right now? Because I know for myself, Ian, I don't know if you feel the same way. I get, as I get older even more, I'm going to use the word mad at myself that I'm ruining my time right now, that I'm allowing this preoccupation to consume me. And I think, for what? Again, so my logical part of my brain knows this is silly, but there's this habitual way of, seeing doom and gloom. I see that first before I see it's all going to work out. Just stay. What can you do today? What's more important today than preoccupying something you don't even need to think about right now? Like, such a big habit for me, but I'm aware of my cycle. And so I may have a 24-hour crazy time where I'm back in my old cycle, but I recognize the way I look at things, what the worries, the beliefs, the importance of people being safe, all that stuff I carry with myself. I feel responsible around. It's part of my core beliefs and values and how I contribute. I can say, well, maybe you got that on overdrive right now.
Yeah. Well, I think, seeing as you're speaking into the visual, I think already that you brought up. So I figure, why don't we bring it up? So
what's your reaction to that, though, as you kind of share a really valid, real story that you are traveling in right now in many ways?
When you mentioned the recognizing the patterns, so that immediately my brain went to being a pleaser. right? So and I've always been a pleaser. So knowing I had a conversation with my wife really quickly after, like, there was fires in the streets and whatever, I think it was probably the day after, and we were on our drive on the way home, and I'm like, do I bring it up? Do I not bring it up? Do I bring it up? Do I not bring it up? And I brought it up, of course. And I asked her a question, but I'd asked it in a way that it didn't give her an out. So it's like, are we really considering taking the kids or whatever, like, to Puerto Vallarta? And she's like, I could see she's already struggling. She's like, I need a vacation. And I'm like, but aren't we going to consider this? Like, I understand we have to see how things play out a little bit, but are we not going to not consider that we might not go? Like I said, this is our lives too, right? Or potentially. But when you hear, like, but I really need a vacation. So now I've got other things to please, other than, just trying to do the basic good for the family, if it's necessary to do so. There's also that. It's like the tugging at the heartstrings of things. So just hearing you say patterns made me click to, okay, what's my pattern here?
You named it.
I did name it. So I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it on stage then, so that you can walk us through this. Does this still make sense if in this conversation that we're having, to share this?
Absolutely. So it's the way we change and the way we stay the same. So this pattern is, we wake up, we talk about this, we wake up, we are, the way we look out to the world, we are individuals with unique perspectives. And it's based on our beliefs, our values, and our life experiences. And you kind of described a little bit of your beliefs and your values, keeping my family safe, wanting to make sure I, take care of my wife's needs to rest. You have a lot of things that that's important to you. So, and making sure you're making wise decisions. I could hear a lot of beliefs and values inside of you. And so what happens is we start to look for things that are aligned to that, and you look at your research is aligned to making sure your beliefs and your values are aligned. And that what happens is we start to we pay attention to certain things, and then we come back up and it gets reinforced in the way we look at things. Mm-hmm. So we do this unconsciously. And it's, so we have our wake up contact lenses. I'd love you to tell your contact lens story. And that's our view of the world. And now we've got you've got a big in your face. Like this is not a little baby thing that's coming at you. This is pretty big. You're taking your family to a place where there's been violence, shootings, fires, all that stuff. It was supposed to be a vacation. My wife needs a rest. You hear your little voice. And so again, just to be mindful of, where am I doing my research? Because that's where you're going to go based on your values, beliefs, and experiences. So it's, what is it that you need to either to loosen your grip on some of your beliefs and values, or pay attention to them, say, is this necessary right now or important? And think, okay, how do I want to look at this situation? And I already heard you shifting a bit, Ian, saying, I don't need to jump on this right now. I can put a pause in this and wait and see how it pans out. But your values and your beliefs are very strong in what you care about and what you want to make sure that's going to be right for Julie and right for your family, and just make this a good vacation for everyone.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, getting out of your head always provides an opportunity to hear that, to hear it out loud, sometimes for the first time. I have had a couple of conversations with Julie already about this, so it's already out there. It's not it's not stuffed under the rug. Like, we are talking about it. But you're right. We still have time. And I think that's probably the biggest factor right now is nothing changes for us physically over the next week and a half or whatever it is. Whether if we cancel, the money's gone. Like, it's not like whether we pull out at the last second doesn't change anything from our perspective here. We're safe.
Yeah.
The decision comes at that point. Do you take off or not? Do the bags go on the plane, or do they stay grounded here? So just knowing there's not a necessary an immediacy to it, it relieves at least some of that internal pressure. And knowing that I have 3 other people that I can be talking to this with who are involved in this decision. Yeah. It's not just me. And they're all, pretty level-headed and smart people. So I'm sure we'll figure out what the right thing is for us when we get there. But it's not, you're right, it's not just me, which is, I guess, the other thing. It's not just me.
Yeah. Well, you said, Karen, you're right. We do have time. You said it, not me.
Understood.
I just gave it back to you.
Okay, so that's the difference, right? So oftentimes we won't hear the thing that came out of us, mm-hmm. But as a coach, if you hold on to that thing, like I would have written that down immediately. If I was sitting on your side, I would have wrote that down. And then when we got to this point, I would have put it back in my face for me to see, because I want to say we don't always even hear everything that comes out of our mouth until 100%. It's reflected back, because there's so much other stuff being bounced around. We don't settle into the things that we've said. So in your reflection back, using my words and putting it back at me, I have a chance to sit with those words as opposed to the word vomit that I had prior to that.
It's so very, very true about we say a lot of things out loud, but we're emptying our cup, and the more often you can do it give it back without any judgment. Mm-hmm. Try to intervene and say, "Oh, it's going to be okay." Like not giving my perspective on where you're seeing what's important to you. The person finds their own way. We're pretty wise on the inside, and slowing that down and having a space where you can empty everything that's your cup without interruption, without being told what to do, asking, well, what else, pointing to your 3 fingers, letting you know that you've already discerned a lot of things for yourself. And then, you say, okay, now I feel a sense, okay, I still am going to have to make the decision. I don't have to do it alone, and I don't have to do it right away. Those are 2 huge next steps for you, placed appropriately mm-hmm. in your topic. Which is the second thing I want to say is that's the big thing about action. Often action isn't happening immediately. It's a chance for people to slow down and even wait and see if they have to make any decision or what that decision will be. So, the importance of slowing down the mind to say, now sometimes it's urgent. It's a 24-hour, gotta do it. I'm getting on the plane. But yours wasn't that way. So it gave you breathing space. I felt like even you looked a lot more, your body started to relax.
I'll have to watch the replay to see myself sink. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what I take out of that is that there is being in it. There is action in being. It might not look like anything externally, but those steps need to happen before the action. So there's still steps. They just might not be flashy or big or whatever on the outside, but inside they're big realizations, big decisions on not doing something for a period of time. I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait and I'm going to be in this. I'm going to have heartfelt conversations with those that are important to me and see what comes of that. I don't have to there's no decision making that has to happen today. I am not getting on the plane this afternoon. So being's a part of the process. And we skip it often.
well, again, it's what do we value in a conversation, or in, like, what is a result? If it's, we so much look at the tangibles, I've talked about this before, the action versus how is that person feeling, being, settling, how are they showing up now, and how's that going to, what kind of ripple effect will that create in their lives? Just think about that. This topic, but look at the way that person's leaving the conversation. How is that going to be of value, of service to them in interactions, in what they need to do now? So you see the ripple effect of taking care of the person in their topic.
Yeah, it takes the, I don't know if this is the right word or not, but like the franticness out of it. Because that person, if they don't have that conversation, then goes home and they have that frantic energy with their kids because they're nervous about it. They don't want to talk about it. They're whatever. They're going to be in a different space and vibration going forward, and it has an impact on everybody. So these spaces are really, I think they're necessary to have so that you can be. So you can be.
There was a story. Do we have time for a story I want to tell?
Sure. We don't have a time limit.
I used to tell this in the coaching workshops, that there was a young couple that moved into their first home, and it was in a more of an older neighborhood. So the neighbors themselves were older than them. And so every morning they'd have their breakfast in their breakfast nook, and they'd look out, and the couple beside that were elderly. She would hang out her clothes on the clothesline. And the spouse would, the wife would say, look at her. I feel so bad. Her laundry's dirty and she's hanging it out. I wonder if she has eyesight. So she's talking to herself, and I'm really, I feel so bad. Look at her, all that effort, and she's a little bit feeble. And so this went on for a couple of weeks. Every morning it was the neighbor's ritual of hanging the clothes on the line. And so after a couple of weeks, she came out, sat at the table, was eating breakfast. Her husband was in the kitchen pouring coffee. And she goes, oh my goodness, someone must have talked to her. Look at her laundry. It's clean. He said, no, I washed our windows. And so often, right, the view out, in how we show up, the way we're looking out at things is way more important to what we're seeing on the other side of the window. I always thought was a really, really reminded me that the checking in on how am I really looking at this? What kind of dirty film may I have over my eyes that might be clouding the issue of what I'm seeing? So it was a great reminder that I need to do the internal check-in. And sometimes I mess that one up very easily. I go into action very quickly. And it's after the fact going, yeah, I had a really strong view of that. And then as I got into it, I realized it was absolutely not true.
So my intention for today wasn't this necessarily, but I think we might have to redo this. We might have to do this again with the same topic. Because my intention, or maybe it still works, but my intention for this today was like when we get stuck and mired in something and we're looking at it from one perspective, sometimes if somebody asks a question or helps you see it from an alternate perspective, it can give you a completely different view of your situation. That's where I was thinking today might go. I'm fine that it went where it did, because we can also see that the way that we approach a situation is usually filtered and colored through our own personal experience. And I have always called that the contact lens, because family history, it's the way you grew up, it's everything that shaped who you are and what you see. But because the lens is right on your eye, you don't distinguish it from any other way than the way that you see it. And when somebody else is looking at the same thing, they have their version of the same event. So let's say your contact lens makes you see things blue, and they see their contact lens makes them see things that are pink. You can both scream to your blue in the face that it's pink or it's blue, but you're both looking at the same events. But if you can pull that contact lens away and try to see things from a grounded perspective, you can both agree on many things, but from an alternate view.
That'll be an interesting one, especially in these times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
I can breathe a little bit longer. I can breathe for another week and a half.
Well, I think the particular topic you brought up today, I could have easily jumped in with an alternate perspective for you. Again, it's in the media, and I have people that have been down in that area or in Mexico. But I was really curious about your sense of responsibility here. That's what caught my attention from a perspective of, is me telling you it's going to be okay going to change your perspective versus I really need to do my own thing to know that I feel confident, as we feel confident as a family to go down there and have a vacation.
Right. I think I needed to go through the being aspect of it first.
Yeah.
I may still seek a little bit of outside information from people who have been there. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a friend who lives in Tulum. I know it's not the same place, but they may have different set of information living in the country versus
Sure.
visiting. So, yeah. So there are, and I do know, I mean, there's a lot of people that go to Puerto Vallarta. I'm sure I could find somebody who's been or is going or whatnot as well. So I have some to-dos maybe to do on my list, but we'll get there in time.
Okay.
Well, thank you for helping me explore this. And I don't know if this is helpful for anybody else, but hopefully they got something from it. All right. So we'll see you next week.
Next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.